Hey Graphic 45ers, I'm here today to share with y'all a tutorial on how to create your own little book purse. Is what I'm going to make out of this, but this is also just a way to alter books. I know a lot of you have seen the books that have the niches carved inside of them. This is a great way to make shadow boxes. These are just really fun to do. I haven't altered a book in a long time, so I decided it was high time for me to do another one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the spine here. You don't really want to cover the spine with paper because you're going to be opening and closing this a lot and it's going to need to give. So what I'm going to use is the Graphic 45 washi tape. I have never been a washi tape fan until Graphic 45 made it, and now I am all about it. It really saves a lot of time. I used to have to prime or paint things over and over and over and do the edges. Now I just use my washi tape and I'm good to go. So I'm just going to tear little strips off. I'm not going to worry about them being perfect or anything like that because I'm going to cover the front and backs with paper. But I just want to make sure I get my finger into those grooves right there really well so that there's a nice seal. And then when I get done with this, I am going to go over it all with some gel medium just to make sure it stays in place. Okay, so as you can see now, you can open this over and over and the washi tape doesn't bend, it doesn't give, so you're going to be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish covering my whole entire spine with the washi tape. One little tip I could give y'all is to use your bone folders to make sure you get really good contact with them. I tend to do that a lot. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish covering my entire spine and then we'll go to step 2. Okay, one more step before we get started is I'm going to go ahead and prep my edges, and I'm going to put a little bit of washi tape over the edges just so if my paper falls short it will be nice and pretty. And then also that little discolored orangish type color there from the original book, I don't want that showing through. I'd rather the washi tape show when it's closed like that. Okay, so I'm just using my washi tape. Love this stuff. And like I said, if you want to make sure that you have good contact, you can go ahead and use some gel medium and just lay a layer down and then go over top of it as well. As you can see, I'm not being particular at all. I'm being pretty sloppy with it because all this is going to get covered with paper. Okay, and my spine is covered, so I'm going to finish this up and then we will start the paper adhering. Okay, I have got all of my edges lined with the washi tape, so our next step is to glue the pages together. Now if you're making one big shadow box out of your book, you'll want to glue them all together like this, but like I said, I'm making a purse, so I'm going to split my book in half, and you want to, even if it's not exactly in half, you want to get it to a point where the pages divide easily and no other, like if you do it like this, you're trying to force this little piece over here to go. So get it to a point where either it's directly in half or just to where it rests comfortably and none of the pages are trying to flip to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start gluing. You'll want to get some clips of some sort to clip your book down. I'm just using refrigerator magnet clips that are for chips and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and clip my sides together. Okay, and then you're just going to start gluing the edges of the paper. I'm going to use some gloss super heavy gel. Basically same thing as Mod Podge, just a little bit heavier body. You can use any adhesive you want. I thought about using the rubber cement but decided against it. Any liquid adhesive you have, of course double-sided tape or anything is not going to work, but any other adhesive should work just fine as long as it dries clear. Don't use one that dries a different color. So I'm just going to use a paintbrush. I'm going to start going on my edges. Actually, really quickly, hold on one second. Let me grab some tissue paper to insert behind that. That way, in case I glue it together, it's not going to stick to the back. Okay, go ahead and take a little piece of tissue paper, just some scrap tissue paper. I save everything from packages. And just place it in between your book and the hardback. The pages in the hardback. Wrap it around and clip it. That way, if you get a little bit of glue on there, it's not going to get glued to the book already. Okay, I'm just going to tuck those behind me so they're out of the way. Of course, you can cut those down and be more precise, but it's not really important. Okay, now I'm going to start gluing my pages. And I'm just taking a paintbrush, and like I said, Gloss Super Heavy Gel. I'm just going to start going on my pages like this. So you can see that tissue paper already came in handy, otherwise you're going to have a thick mess back there. Try to get as close to the spine as you possibly can. And just start gluing. Do this all the way around both pages. I'm being careful not to get any on the front page here because I don't want it to be messy looking. Once this dries, I usually go back over it one more time with another coat just to make sure it's nice and solid. So as I go to this side, I'm just going to move my clip up there so it's out of the way. And I'm just going to continue gluing my pages together. Okay, the next thing you need to do is make yourself a template. And what I did is I just took a scrap piece of paper and measured it out at 4.5 by 7. I basically want to cut around all the text here so it's just clear or just blank. So just measure and get your measurement and make yourself a little template. And then you're just going to trace this onto it. And here comes the tedious, very, very, very tedious, time-consuming part. But it's really worth it. It's really worth it in my opinion. I find it very therapeutic sometimes to just sit back in front of the TV, watch my favorite show, do fussy cutting or things like this. So it's really, it's a bit time consuming, but I think it's worth it. You're going to have to cut through a lot of pages. So keep that in mind when you pick out a book. If you want a bigger purse or a bigger shadow box, whatever you're making, just keep in mind that however many pages you get, that's how many you're going to have to cut through. This one's only about 500, so it's not as bad as some previous ones I've done. Okay, let me erase my little mistake right there. That's why I always use pencil. Okay, now you're going to need a really sharp X-Acto knife, craft knife, whatever you have on hand, utility knife, anything that will cut through these pages. So I have my craft knife here and I have an extra blade handy so that as soon as this one gets dull I can switch it out, because you do not want to try to cut through this with a dull knife. So just go on your line and just start cutting it out. Make sure your fingers are out of the way. Try to do it as straight as possible. You probably cut through about maybe 10 pages at a time with each pass. Pay attention to your corners. Make sure you push in really good there, because a lot of times when you go to pull them out, your corners won't be cut out very well. And just take your time, because you want nice clean edges. Don't do it quickly and make it all ragged. Some of my pages aren't glued together perfectly right now, but that's fine. Oops, that's fine with me. Okay, so once you get to that point, just start picking out all the pages that you cut. Let's see here. Try to see about how many we did here. We did about 12 of them, so it cuts through about 12 pages. Now what I do is I keep these. I use book pages in my projects a lot, especially mixed media, so I have a huge drawer in my back bedroom full of book pages. Like I said about the corners, sometimes you have to go back through and make sure you get your corners really well, because sometimes the paper won't come out right. But you're just going to keep going through and cutting through as cleanly and precisely as you can until you get all the way through, you all. You're going to go all the way through. When you get towards the end, make sure you're not pushing in too hard to cut through the hard cover of your book. Other than that, just keep cutting. And as soon as mine is hollowed out, I will come back and show you all what it looks like. Okay, I've got my pages completely cut out, so you can see how if you were making a shadow box or a little book safe, how it would be on the outside. It looks like this. You could just set it on your shelf, nobody would know, and then when you open it up, you've got this whole compartment you could hide things in, scissors, whatever, you know. I went ahead and did mine in half, like you know, so I could do the purse. So you can see everything's not perfect. My cuts, some of them get a little jagged. That's going to happen. You're going to cut your fingers, maybe, like I did a couple of times, but overall it took me about 40 minutes, and that was with me just taking my time and watching TV while I did it. So this is what it looks like. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and adhere my papers to the inside. All you need to do is measure the inside of your book pages. Mine is 5 1/4 by 8, so I'm just going to adhere those down. I went ahead and did washi around the edges, but most of that's going to get covered up. Okay, now we're going to get our inside closure part, and what you need to do for that is determine how far you want your book to open. About right here is how I want mine. I've already done this hinge, as you can see. You can use fabric for this, but I'm choosing to use paper. So all you do is just open your little book up. I want mine to be more like a clutch than a purse. So what I did is I took it like this, and then I drew on a piece of paper a template to cut. So just go ahead and open your book up like this, set it down on a piece of paper, and trace around it. Once I had that template done, I went ahead and cut it out, and then before you go ahead and trace your other templates, go ahead and make sure it fits in there perfectly. You can use a paper towel or scrap paper, anything you want for this part of it, just to go ahead and get yourself a good template. So once I had it, I went ahead and put it on this sheet of paper and folded it in half. That way when I cut it, I'm getting 2 pieces instead of 1, because I think 2 pieces of cardstock will just hold up a lot more than 1 piece will. So make sure they don't move like I just did, and go ahead and cut these 2 templates out. And then I'm just going to use double-sided adhesive to adhere these together. I want the brown stripes showing on the inside and outside, so I'm going to glue the other pattern face to face. Okay, once you have your template cut out, go ahead and fold it in half. Make sure everything is lined up properly. And then I'm just going to use my bone folder to give myself a nice clean edge. Okay, and now we are just going to insert it into our book. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over this way. Make sure when you put it in, you make sure the part that's going to fold upward is on the inside part, facing up, not facing down, okay? And then you're just going to adhere it in here. It's easiest to just open it up like that, and then I put my adhesive directly on here, but I'm going to put a little bit on the edges of my flap too. I'm using Glossy Accents. It is my new glue of choice. I absolutely love this stuff. Okay, and then just for good measure, I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue in a few places. Well, my hot glue gun is not on, so no, I'm not. Scratch that. We're just going to go ahead and adhere it down. And then just move your pages over until it lines up. If it goes over just a little bit on one side, that's fine. We can cut it. Just make sure you have good contact there. Okay, once it's dry, the adhesive is dry, we're going to go ahead and finish up the inside, and all we're going to do is glue our pages to the back here. So you can see when you open up the clutch, you see your nice pattern paper in there. As I was doing this, I was also thinking this would be a cute little mail holder, junk mail holder, anything. There's so many possibilities when you alter books. So to adhere this down, I'm just going to use hot glue, because I have found when I'm working with really thin book paper like this, sometimes it warps with wet adhesive. So I'm just going to go ahead and work fast so it doesn't dry on me. Hot glue dries pretty quickly. And then I'm just going to close the book on it. Making sure to push down. Make sure I have good contact. And we're just going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Okay, now it's all super tight. So you can see when the book is closed, it just looks like a normal book. And then when you open it up, you have a little clutch in there. Okay, so now we're going to decorate the front of the book.